Creative Mornings. I'm so thrilled that there's so many of you here today. It's really exciting to see so many faces and lots of new faces. I know we've got a lot of students in today, so welcome to you guys. And if this is your first event, please feel very welcome and come along again. If it is your first event, you might not know that we are, it's not just a Cardiff event, there's actually at least 200 different Creative Mornings chapters all over the world. And we each month we share a global theme. And this month's theme is Parallel. And it was chosen by our Kuala Lumpur chapter and illustrated by Ollie Savitra, who does all these really cool, surreal illustrations. And we have a little bit of writing on the theme each month. And this month it says, like train tracks receding into the distance, our lives eventually hit the end of the line. A bit dark.
Keep it light.
Straight in there. Yeah. Along the way, people tend to live parallel lives. Work, school, eat, sleep, rinse and repeat. We exist side by side with strangers, always keeping the same distance of anonymity between us. But, unlike those tracks, our paths don't run in straight lines. We meet someone new at every turn. We may live parallel lives, but we don't have to go through them alone. And I found that resonated with me in relation to Creative Mornings, because I used to, years ago when I was a junior designer, I worked for a very small creative agency, and I felt like we were in this tiny little bubble where I knew 5 or 6 people in the industry, but not really anyone else, and I knew there were all these other designers and creatives out there in Cardiff and further afield who I just didn't know. And then starting going to Creative Mornings and then other events helped me kind of get to know everyone else, make friends, and have it then give me the confidence to then go freelance. So it was very valuable to me that those parallel lives came together. And we're sponsored by Adobe, who sponsor us globally, but they also sponsor us here in Cardiff. And they are the people who enabled us to pay for breakfast and venues and putting it on each month, so we wouldn't be able to do it without them. And they would like us to let you know that each week they have live YouTube live sessions where they talk about tips and tricks for different programs. So whether you're a designer or illustrator, videographer, there's different themes that they're talking about each week. So have a look at that. So this month we're really honoured to have Radim Malinic talk to us today. And he's come down from London, and he is the creative director of the agency Brand New. But he seems like one of those creatives who always wants to do loads of projects and doesn't want to sit still. So he not only is he a designer and a creative director, he's also an author of several books about creativity. And he gave me a couple of copies of some books last night, which I'm really looking forward to getting into. So they're about creativity, but also specifically about businesses and creative careers and applying those lessons in your work life. He also runs a podcast called the Mindful Creative Podcast, which is about overcoming creative challenges. And he's interviewed some of the greats on there, including Stefan Sagmeister, Jessica Hirsch, Chris Doe, and our very own Liz Mosley, wherever she is. And this morning we're actually drinking coffee from his coffee brand, because not only does he do all that, he also runs a coffee brand. And thank you very much for providing the coffee this morning. It's delicious. So he's going to talk to us today about how to find calm in creative storms, which I feel like I need to learn about. So, could you please welcome Radim Malinic?
Wow, this is like having a eulogy. It's what do you do? So sorry if it makes you feel a bit inadequate by 9 o'clock in the morning. I will share with you the lessons of how I do things and how I got to the point where I am today. But first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for waking up and saying, I'm going to see that guy. How do you pronounce his name? Yeah, Radim. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to be here is because I've got such a sort of love letter, like a love relationship with Creative Mornings, because I discovered Creative Mornings about 2012 on YouTube, and it just opened my mind to all sorts of amazing sort of views and philosophies about creativity. So I wanted to be here. Thanks for having me. And the topic of parallel, I think, is quite adequate for what we're going to talk about today. As Laurie said, we're going to talk about how to find calming creative storms. This is how we spell my name. This is how I pronounce it. It's Radim. Sounds like Adam. And yeah, thank you for honest opinions on the coffee. I hope you enjoy it. I did the secret sort of opinion. I was like, is the coffee any good? And guy said, it's a guest roast. I'm like, good, thank you. It's good. So yeah, thanks. It's nice to be doing this. So let me start with a story. About a decade ago, when I'm at sort of mid-30s, I jumped on a flight from Heathrow to Denpasar in Bali, and I was awake for 24 hours, in the skies for 17 hours, but I was awake, giddy and excited because I was going to pursue the biggest waves of my life so far. I should have done what every sensible person would do when they get to the other side after such a long flight and being awake for more than a day. But I know I rushed straight to the hotel. I didn't rest. I dropped off my bags and I rushed straight to the beach. And there it was. The biggest waves I've ever seen in my life, which I've met with the biggest smile on my face, like pretty much like seeing the Christmas lights for the first time in my life. I still remember it. Some might relate. And of course, as you can tell so far, I didn't wait. I wanted to be straight in the water and surf. So I had a surfboard. I started paddling out, and I was in those beautiful shimmering turquoise waters. And as I'm paddling out to catch the first wave, I'm hoping that the two words that will leave my mouth will be, oh yes. Except I don't even have time to say, oh shit. Because as I'm misjudging the takeoff, because these waves are bigger than ever I've surfed, I misjudged the takeoff, the fast rolling wave behind me wipes me out, and I'm underwater, wiping out. I don't know which way is up. It begins to feel that I have to hold my breath for longer than ever before. I remembered someone told me that when you panic and start counting underwater, so you know how long you've been under, because at that point, I'm absolutely in no control of the situation. As I'm here, I managed to get back up, so I can tell you the story, because I got some oxygen back into my lungs, I grabbed onto my surfboard, and I'm slowly drifting back onto the shore. When I get back on the beach, which was another chore because it's the offshore wind, so I couldn't really get out. But I'm sat there, tired, bewildered, confused, and I'm looking back at those people having really good time surfing, and I feel like a fool because it made me realize that my skills, my expectations were nowhere near much for the situation. So now you're thinking, why are you telling us about surfing? I believe this story is a perfect analogy for creativity, for having creative life, for running creative business, for having creative career, for taking on things that are far too big for us, yet so irresistible, for things that teach us what we can do and what we can do. So, today, the business of creativity I think can be also summed up by a mindfulness teacher called John Kabat-Zinn, who says, you can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. I believe, you can't control creativity. You can't control creativity, but you can learn how to use it. Today I would like to talk about 3 life lessons learned from creative life as a designer, author, many things in between, but mainly I would call myself as an eternally curious idiot. So, my path into creativity is somewhat non-linear. I didn't wake up on my 4th birthday, like some maybe of you, with a crayon in hand and say, Mother, I will be an illustrator for the rest of my life. I mean, if I did that, I would have been a stand-up comedian by now and potentially deliver it even better. But that didn't happen. As a young boy growing up in Czech Republic, I wanted to join my local ice hockey team. One problem, I couldn't ice skate. As a young teenager, I wanted to start a band, but there was a problem. I didn't have an instrument, nor I knew how to play one. Made it work. And as a sort of in my late teenage years, I stood up to the room of this size to a DJ decks to play a DJ set. I never played DJ set before, but we made it work. It was all about the now versus how. It was that spur of the moment opportunity of like, how can I turn it into something long term? Because I was curious. I wanted to see how to do it. So, what we got here? So, it was my love for music that led me into creativity, because I jumped on another flight, this time from Czech Republic to London, to go record shopping 25 years ago. Little did I know it would be just a one-way ticket, because the surroundings was mesmerizing, like the UK club culture, music scene. I mean, it was a Disneyland. And I was like, you know, when you go somewhere on holiday, everything smells better, everything sounds better, everything, you know, design's more interactive and more immersive. So I was like, okay, this makes me kind of believe that I can be part of it. So one day I walked up to my local high street, and I could see a junior designer job advertised in the window. I walked in, I asked for an interview. The interview wasn't extensive, nor it was thorough, because I managed to get that job. And what I lacked in experience, I made up in excitement and enthusiasm, because I had my first job title. I felt like a superhero. Do you remember how you felt with your first job title? Someone might be apprehensive, but obviously as you get, like, I didn't get imposter syndrome, I had idiot syndrome. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, can you do it? Oh, no, absolutely no idea. But I felt like a superhero. I was like, this is amazing. I wasn't graphic designer 24 hours prior, but I was like, I'm doing this. I did, for my bands, I did some posters and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't exactly, fully trained, but I did it. But little did I know that feeling like a superhero, I will get to meet my Lex Luthor, my kryptonite. And my idea of creativity from the outside was a bit like this calm lake, almost no ripples, beautiful sunset in the background, except we got I mean, it took me like half an hour to choose the best one. Like stormy waves, choppy waters, because I didn't expect clients, deadlines, feedback, amends, more discussions, everyone has an opinion. I was like, whoa! I thought, it was good, right? I thought that creativity was fun, and then the client showed up. I'm like, for fuck's sake. I was like, what do we do with this? So my problem was in this moment where I was still sort of pushing for the thing to be fun, but my issue was that I wanted to be in control. I was at that first stage of creative career when you're really selfish. You think you know better than anybody else. And as I've just told you, I wasn't there for that long, and I was like, yeah, I'm here, this is my computer, I'll show you how to do it. And that was my problem, because I wanted to control the process, idiot, and you can say I wanted to control the waves. So I had to slowly and gradually learn how to actually shut up. I should have to sort of let go, because I realized that my expectations when I started, because I was super ambitious, because I was naive, my expectations were sky high and my resilience was non-existent, because when the client showed up, I'm like, whew, what are we doing? So I kind of realized that throughout those years, I've been putting together a toolkit of 4 elements: listen, observe, ask, and understand. And what we want, as I said, in that sort of selfish stage of our careers, we want to lead, we want to tell everyone what to do, we don't really want to listen, do we? But I needed to understand what's being said, because being a designer in a younger age, you try to prove your worth in a room, because people say, hey, you're the creative one, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I've been here for 5 seconds, I've got no idea, but because you feel anxious, you try to prove your worth. So you're like, oh, I've got some stupid suggestion, I'll just tell you this. And it just doesn't make any sense. As opposed to now, it's like, tell me what you really want. What is it actually what you try to do? So I need to listen to fully understand every little detail before speaking, because it's so easy to speak over other people. Try to finish their sentences. Like, look, I'm clever. Useless. Observe. My role in a situation and just take it all back in, like to take it in, because it's so easy to try to prove your worth. And I had to learn to ask questions, better questions, relentless questions, like why, what this, what is that? And then, because it gives you the understanding, because it's so easy to take a brief. And I should have asked you, like, how many creative people do we have in the room? Do you want to raise your hand so I can just know? Do you do creative work? Okay. I'm not a designer. A social? So it's easy to take a brief, which doesn't make any fucking sense. You're like, can you work with it? Yes. And then you go home and you cry. It's like, what am I doing? It doesn't make any sense. So just like ask questions, better questions, relentless questions, because when you understand the creative process, where do you slot in? It's so much easier to produce the work because all of a sudden you've got the understanding. Because what I had to do, and I would suggest that as a first sort of eternal lesson in creativity, is that lower your expectations. Lower your expectations. Like that selfish designer wants everything to be amazing. Oh, they've seen this in my portfolio. This is going to be a great project. This is going to look great in my portfolio. What happens? Opposite. Like it all just goes crashing down, right? So it's lower your expectations, because after in my personal experience, after nearly 25 years, anything goes. You wanted pink? Let's make it the best pink you wanted. You wanted this? Let me show you how we can do this better. Understand their problems and actually just sort of say, you know what? Anything goes. But I've got this resilience. Like if it's crap, if it doesn't work, let's work on it. Let's give it more time, because I now believe creativity isn't fun until the client shows up, because we need them. We need them to challenge us. I know, uncomfortable opinion, but yeah, we need them. So. Resilience, part of a resilience, and there's a sort of big sort of topic in the consultancy and coaching space, like you shouldn't really need resilience coaching. We need brilliance coaching. But I'm like, we are fragile human beings. Like we hide behind our creative work for various reasons, and I feel resilience is very much an imperative of our 21st century living, not just a creative one, because we have more. No, not yet. Say that, cactus. We have more tools, connections, opportunities, technology, all sat in a hyper-connected world, sat in our pockets, ready in our fingertips. But when we see the world through the little squares, and when we engage in the endless scroll, inevitable endless scroll, because we are all guilty of, people seem to appear more talented, successful, better looking. Are they? Really? Are they really more talented or better looking? Not really. But what we do with the endless scroll, we invent false narratives like success competition, ambitious anxiety, like, oh, I need to be where that person already is. I need to do that. But its truth is that it's not. So at that point, when we feel a little bit inadequate, is to actually start thinking about our uniqueness, what makes us what we are. Because uniqueness is our greatest asset. How often do you think about your uniqueness? Have you even thought about it till today? Because it's the thing that, through our creative work, we look for self-acceptance. Well, we're looking for acceptance. When you are the obsessed young designer, you create a piece of work, and you're like, I'm going to show it to someone. You show it to them. They're like, what do you think? They're like, I think you could change this and that. Fuck off. No. Just say yes. Say it's amazing. Don't give me any feedback. I want this to be... Because we are looking just for like, okay, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And people go like, resilience expectations. So it's that thing about like, I didn't personally, as an immigrant from Czech Republic, living in the UK for 25 years, at first, I wanted to blend in as much as possible. I've kind of created a South African accent for some reason, but I wanted to hide behind my works, like literally show the piece, and I'm like, I want to hide. I want the work to go and fly, but like, it's just me. I wasn't accepting myself for being me who I am, for the 6 foot tall one, the one with South African accent, the one that celebrates me for who I am, who I could be. Because it was, again, the work of creativity that taught me a lesson in self-acceptance. Because, again, we're back to the 4 tools: listen, observe, ask, and understand, and it goes now inwards. Listen to yourself, fully understand the expression of your soul. Because how many times do we find ourselves sort of being sort of pushed into a direction that we don't necessarily agree with, because we can do what we really want to do. And now understand my role in every situation and why I definitely belong in that room. I don't have to justify myself, my presence. Ask better question of yourself. Kind of, what is it that you want? And how good do you want to be, And how much do you want it? And because those questions will lead you on your creative path, and you can understand the flow of your creativity, of your uniqueness, and dial it up. What should I say? Yeah, dial it up. Because it was the role of creativity that played part in my self-acceptance, because I still fall off my surfboard and I still feel like a fool, but not for long. Because being able to accept myself for who I am makes any feelings of competition and comparison fall away almost straight away. Because I can remind myself in every situation that I am that I'm okay, I'm enough, and I belong. Those words took me 20 years to work out because I was trying to be enough for somebody else. I was trying to prove somebody else, not to tell me that I'm okay. But it needed to come from me. Because celebrating my uniqueness, so I'm bashing the microphone, celebrating my uniqueness kind of gives us a foundation in our being, kind of extra layer in the foundation, because we can stop looking sideways, stop scrolling, keep looking ahead. Because when we think about that, like when we sort of start thinking about uniqueness and start thinking about like, okay, I've accepted myself, I can start thinking about how do I actually start enjoying my creativity? Because we all dream of flow states. We all want to be in this magical space that I've got, I can focus on my work, the phone's not ringing, all the invoices are done. Except, how often have you reached a flow state in the last a month, a year? Because what do? I'll put it back up for a bit. What do? We create bad plans, chaos and overwhelm. And when we get overwhelmed, what do? We blame everyone and everything, do we? The orange face, the Tesla fella, all of us just kids, like, oh, I need to distract myself, because we kind of pull away, like we don't focus properly. So at those moments when overwhelm takes hold, we need to ask ourselves a few questions. And they are simple, yet so obvious. And so many questions sometimes are not answered well. How are you really? How are you? That's the first question. Are you sleeping okay? Are you eating okay? It's like, I had a salad yesterday, Do you exercise regularly? No, I'm starting tomorrow, obviously. How's your social life? Today is good. Neglected often. How's your bank balance? Work in progress, Cost of living crisis. Do you follow politics? Maybe you shouldn't. And did you actually make did you make a plan? Because there's one thing I've found as in my ripe age of 47, my birthday was 7 days ago. I'm sort of leaning into all of these things I'm telling you. I'm kind of finding the calm, because it was a chaos, it was an overwhelm, and I never planned ahead. It was like, oh, you got a project, let's think as far as the project. I didn't even think beyond the first round of feedback. I didn't think, because I was so focused on just that sort of outcome. So everything now is 2 steps ahead. I always plan things, because first time with the slides. Because when I get to ask myself these questions, and I wish I had slept better last night, for example. When I get to ask myself these questions, I only can sometimes come up to the only sort of realization that, dear creativity, it's not you, it's me. I'm the reason we're not working out right now. Because not being able to focus on what we do, being so distracted, because we don't necessarily think about like, okay, how is my sort of mental and physical state going to do with creativity? Because we show up, and what do we expect with our high expectations? Magic. Does it happen? No. What are you thinking about? Holidays, bank balance. Oh, fuck. Okay. So when it comes to this, and when I sort of made my realization, I realized, okay, I am the person holding me back. I need to do something about it. And not being able to focus on stuff, again, we invent lots of new false narratives. Like, how many times have you doubted a project that was going well? How many times you doubted a project before you even started the project, and you doubted the outcome? Because, did I put it there? There's no such thing as a creative block. This is what after 25 years, there's no such thing as a creative block. And when I tell it to the students, they're like, oh, what do you mean? It's just conflicted and unguarded thoughts that make us trip up, because things don't. It's the narratives in our heads. And I'll give you an example of such, because in my early 20s, I was a nervous flyer. I was mainly a hangover flyer, let's be honest. Especially on the way from somewhere, having a week of fun, #fragile. I was on a flight home back to London, and do we have any nervous flyers? No one wants to admit it. Okay, I'll be the one. Yeah? So I'll give you advice on everyone else. So I was on a flight, And what I discovered only recently, obviously, the plane exerts the most energy on the way to taking off, and then it glides, and sometimes when you sit on the wing, like about 20 minutes before landing, like, the engine stopped. Fuck, the engine stopped. And like, okay, you're gripping your seat, obviously a bit hungover, and then you're holding your breath again. I was like, fuck, what am I doing? Holding onto my seat. Then they do this, and fuck, we're gonna definitely fall down. We are definitely going down. We're going down. I told a story to a friend of mine next day, and he says, when you feel like it, look around you. And you find that person reading a book, the person who looks like they fly every week. Because when they lose their shit, you lose yours. Until then, you're fine. And not only that advice changed the way I travel ever since, you know, sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days, and through questions and answers we can find out. Yeah, it changed the way I work, where I live, the way I create, where I collaborate. I'm open to things because, again, in the way I can work on my physical elements of actually show up properly, you know, in a good state, I can also look after my mind because, again, listen, observe, ask and understand. Put it there because you've got to read it. So listen and tune into the right signals because we make stuff up. So again, the reason why I told you the story about flying is just that sometimes you're in a creative process and you're freaking the fuck out. Like, why? No one else is. Look around, and when they start losing their marbles, you start losing yours. Because until then, you're fine. And finding clarity in the moment and just kind of tune into the right signal. Because as quite beautifully introduced my books are kind of hidden books about mindfulness. Every single book is about mindfulness. Like it's woven into it. Just like how can we do what we do and enjoy it? Because when my realization was that creativity is fun until the client shows up, and then you get into the bigger sort of wheelhouse of advertising, branding, all of the stuff. You're like, this should be really enjoyable. At least that was my naive, selfish opinion. But why shouldn't it be? So just trying to understand all of this and asking for help and sort of putting my hand up and say, you know what, I'm struggling. I'm not okay today. I need help. It's liberating. So it's liberating. Like just to say, years ago, so I am not okay, felt liberating because you find lots of people in a similar situation and say, nor am I. So an understanding the flow of positive and negative thoughts. Again, the positive and negative thoughts come and go, right? Because we dwell on the ones that are not so good, but we accept the good ones, right? So it's been the work of creativity or the life of creativity has been my eternal lesson in staying present. Because I wanted to enjoy it. I don't want to be gripping onto my seat, holding my breath, thinking like we're going down. So, those 3 lessons have really informed my way, like how I do things and how I operate. So, I run brand new studio. I was talking to Kath over there earlier. It's my excuse to be creating images. Like I've started branding studio because at heart I'm an illustrator. So I just hated the way it was done in the advertising where I was. So I just started a branding studio, put focus on that. I've started picking apart the process of creativity. So I wrote my first book as kind of oversized portfolio, put it on Amazon with no expectations, and it did really well. But then I had high expectations of the quality, and I had no resilience with the bad, negative reviews. Like when you publish your first book and someone says, I love this, and then someone in Germany says, this is a joke. I'm like, fucking hell, all right. So again, expectations, resilience, like how do you get anything to go? So I started writing books. The latest 2 books are Creativity for Sale and Mindful Creative. I run my own publishing company, sorry. Because in the beautiful words of a musician called Chris Cornell, do we have any Soundgarden fans? People are nodding, good. Welcome Cardiff, you're welcome. He said this beautiful quote with Jules Holland, and that's my body. He said that when he was young, when he wanted to be the best musician in the world, he said if I was into music enough, if I was not practicing enough, I'd be the best musician in the world, and the best band in the world will show up and beg me to play for them. Except that never happened. When I sort of thought about those words, like I didn't want to wait for the best branding studio to show up and beg me to work for them because that never happened. Publishing contract was never coming, so we just did that. Then we decided to start a product company called November Universe because that's when I was explaining what does brand new stand for. Like November Universe. Started a coffee company because I didn't want to wait for the best coffee company in the world to say, can you do our branding? Guess what? They were not coming. So we just did that, and it's been one of the most rewarding projects so far because it's nice to share good coffee with people. And it's nice to teach myself something new, and it's nice to sort of turn into a sort of creative company just to see what I can do with it. Because, I mean, as borrowed a quote from Steve Jobs, the world around us was not created by anyone wiser than us. It's basically created by us, by the likes of us. So I wanted to do that. And based on the book, I didn't want to wait. I mean, thank you, Liz. You had me on my you had me on your podcast first, but I didn't want to wait for the best. I was waiting for Debbie Millman to have me on her podcast, but that didn't happen. Fuck it, let's start my own podcast. How hard can it be? And you just teach yourself on the go. You are really curious. I've embraced all AI sort of workflows. Everything that can be automated can be automated. Like, I'm just eternally curious idiot because I approach everything as an idiot because that's the best way because your expectations are still quite high. And you kind of unpick it and find out because I was thinking about this for a long time, especially recently as I'm working on my 7th book, trying to understand the role of perfectionism. And the more I'm sort of unpicking those layers, I'm realizing that perfectionism is just an excuse for us to not deal with our shame, vulnerability, anxiety, insecurity, ego, ambition, because we kind of just sort of put it in this thing like, what are you doing? Well, I'm working 17 hours a day. Why? Because I need to make it perfect. Are you really? Because you can be done in 5 hours if you allow yourself to actually let it go and let it out there. Because again, lower expectations, higher resilience, like anything goes. Because no one's created anything, as a first draft. It would be amazing. So, yeah, having a podcast, and yeah, thanks to people like Liz who've actually showed us how to do it. It's been great. And so it kind of goes into all of this. It's that we sort of try to create workflows for ourselves, and sometimes we say, okay, I have covered all the bases. I've done everything I can. This should be now easy, right? The client comes in, we need them, creativity is going to be fun. But the reason why we get ourselves tangled most of the time is because we think that there should be no more problems. That I've got it all covered. Like we've done this before, it should be fine. But it's that sort of way of expecting, being 2 steps ahead, thinking, okay, this is us, this is what we can do, this is how we can do it, we'll be fine if we do it. So remember, you can control what you can and let go of what you can't, because you can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. You can control creativity, but you can learn how to use it. Because I think for all of these little things, we can find calm in creative storms. Thank you. Thank you.